everyone. Welcome to Avaya's Healthy Aging Curriculum. I am Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of Avaya University. Avaya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for being here. Our fellow teacher, Dipika Delmenico, is here today to talk with us about radiance, absolute vitality for aging well. She is an Ayurvedic physician and anthropological naturopath. I said that a few times before this, so I can try to say it right. An international speaker, best-selling author, and for 25 years, she has treated thousands of patients globally with Ayurveda, healing wisdom, and anthroposophical medicine. She is the founder of Conscious Women Rising and the Wisdom Circle, a holistic practitioner, mentorship trainings, wellness courses, and programs, and many, many other things. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today, Andy. It's wonderful. And wow, listening back to that bio, it's like, I've done a few things.
You certainly have. You have done
many. Really? And I'll take a break now.
Right. We'll just be done. Yes, and there were some tongue twister words in there, so I got most of those.
I am so impressed. I had always thought for many years I'd been so drawn to anthroposophical medicine, and I thought, well, and until I can pronounce it.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. Well, could you
tell us when it rolls off my tongue, I won't be studying it.
I know. I sometimes, it's rare to not be able to pronounce something, but right before we hopped on, I looked it up to see like what the pronunciation was. And that is not something. So anthropomorphic naturopath. What does that mean?
Anthroposophic
naturopath. Now I'm not reading it, so now I've forgotten.
Anthroposophical medicine, well, anthroposophy is, a love of the wisdom of the human being. And anthroposophical medicine is the branch of medicine that deals with anthroposophy as developed by Dr. Rudolf Steiner. And many viewers are probably familiar with Steiner education or Waldorf education, biodynamic agricultural farming. And so this is I've trained and as a medical practitioner in the medical arm through the international trainings and the School of Medical Science in Dornach, Switzerland.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
So it's a very holistic, a beautiful holistic way of viewing the human being.
Beautiful. Awesome. So let's talk about healthy aging and what's your take on healthy aging through a holistic lens?
Yeah. Well, healthy aging through a holistic lens is aging essentially as nature intended it to be, and removing the impediments that get in the way of that occurring. And so often what we see, particularly in the contemporary modern world that we live in, is that mentally we place a lot of impediments in the way. That physically throughout the course of one's life, of course, there are the accumulations of living, which are going to manifest and translate as all kinds of impediments to aging naturally, because we don't just age and the body become mineralized and hard and things degenerate and break down. Sure, it's true that occurs, but simultaneously, this extraordinary maturation and wisdom and refinement of one's own relationship to soul and definitely to spirit occurs. And so to age naturally is to allow these processes to occur in a gentle, graceful, absolutely beautiful, revered way.
That's beautiful. Yes, I love that. Yes, just allowing what is happening to be happening in that. Yeah, that is just a beautiful way of saying it. I love that. So what about Ayurveda? So I know this is obviously a big part of your work. First of all, actually, for people who aren't familiar with Ayurveda, let's start with what is that? And then could you talk about some practices within that that could help people with healthy aging?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So Ayurveda it's literally translates to the science of life, and it's the most compassionate gift to humanity insofar as a philosophy for living well goes, because it's based on the elementals. It's based on the fundamental elements of nature, and it allows us to understand that we are that as well. And so we learn to understand the essential nuts and bolts and rhythms that compose us collectively and individually as human beings, but how to live into our innate biological rhythms, into our innate nature, just as again nature intended, so that we're not going against the flow constantly. Because when we're in the flow, we won't get, caught up and beaten on the rocks and, hooked on snags. We'll be able to glide along and manage the rougher water and negotiate our way as we meet it, and or as life presents. So Ayurveda gives us the practical, succinct tools in order to do that, to live into our cycles, to live into our seasons, to live in to our humanness more fully in a way that essentially aligns us with spirit.
Mm. Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. This is really great. It, really diving into, I think it seems like, right, so many people, so often I find in talking about healthy aging, right, we talk about anti-aging and reversing aging. And I think there's totally validity to that in the world of like what we can do with diet and exercise and slow down the process. But at the same time, right, also being like this is the life cycle, and we all eventually will die, and we all are in this like flow of being a human being. So I think how you're saying that is just so beautiful.
It's true, right? We, as gravity takes its toll, you know, um, we have to sit with ourselves as we mature. We have to be able to sit with ourselves as we age, and things do change because by nature, we move into different phases of life, and sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable. There can even be a bit of sadness or melancholy, or even a bit of a grieving process as that which we were is no longer.
Right.
But we're not, as you mentioned, we're not static beings. We're constantly in motion. We're constantly adapting. There is constant change, and so we ought to, by grand design, be able to acknowledge and appreciate and be active to ensure that these changes are occurring in us with as much radiance and vitality and wellness as possible, but not trying to retard that which by nature is going somewhere, not trying to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's
and and as far as reversal goes, when we're living well, then things will, if they have been galloping ahead prematurely, then it can seem, yes, like there's a reversal, because that which was going too quickly, or in an aggravated way, or too fast, too sharp, too hard, will slow down, will become pacified. And so it can seem, like we can feel more timeless, we can feel more useful, we can feel more radiance than we've ever felt before. And that's simply because we're more authentic, we're more embodied, we're more present to that which is.
And why do you think that is? Why is it through this journey that we become more present?
Well, hopefully we come to accept and love who and what we are and where we're at. We cultivate presence, which I think is the most dynamic, vital force one could ever wish for. And it's we're not trying to be somewhere that we're not. Where when a 13-year-old can mark the days off the calendar just, because they cannot wait until they're 15, and then it's 17 or 18 or whatever it may be. And then suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be 40.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't started a family, or I haven't reached this milestone, or I thought life would be different. And then it might be, oh my gosh, I'm about to be 50 and or 60, 70. And, it's about just where we're at is where we're meant to be
Mm-hmm.
in this moment. And that part of us that never dies, that was never born, that never ages, is beyond all space and time, then we cultivate relationship to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when we tap into relationship with that aspect of ourselves, we're illumined. So it doesn't matter what age physiologically we are in this human body,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to possess a radiance, a vitality that gives us all we need.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah. So I guess like for people watching right now, if they're having some resistance to where they're at, do you have any suggestions for them? If right, I just turned 40 a
I
few
do.
months ago, and it was, honestly, it wasn't like too big of a deal, but doing this event throughout that has been really great to kind of, really get into this conversation. But I can imagine 50 might be a little different for me. So like, right, for people who are like, whoa, this is, I wish this wasn't happening. Like, any suggestions?
Yeah. I just want to share something. So, for many years, I observed that I would teach Ayurvedic workshops for women regularly, and they'd often be taught in conjunction with yogasana teachers. And we'd giggle and laugh that what we found was in a series of workshops, the workshops related to healthy menstrual cycle would not be well attended. Like they'd be reasonably well attended, but in a room with capacity for 50 people, there might be 35 people there. And then in the menopausal and beyond workshops, they'd be packed to the rafters with waiting lists. Always, always, always. Because during the menstrual years, women were so busy pushing and forging ahead and so driven and motivated, or that, oh yeah, but that doesn't apply to me, or I'll take care of that later, or I haven't got time for this. It wasn't so important, and until the proverbial literally started to hit the fan. The cracks started to appeal when the great mysteries of oneself were revealed during, perimenopause really kicking in, menopause kicking in, unless they had lived in such a way that they were really, really balanced during the years of menarche. And so I share this because whether it's men or women, now, wherever you're at, now is the time to be caring for yourself. And so and it's like, well, then how do you do that? What's the best way to care for myself in a 30-year-old body, or in a 40-year-old body, or in a 50-year-old body, or in a 75-year-old body? Well, understand the phases of life. Understand the season that you are in. And so in the body at 40, there is still, Ayurveda has 3 distinct seasons of life: the kapha phase, the pitta phase, the vata phase, which in essence, the kapha phase, birth to 16, it's where all the good juices are being developed and cultivated in the body. The architecture is forming and taking place for one to then be able to negotiate the years of manifesting, the creative years. For a woman, the years of menarche. For a man, they go out and make their mark on the world. They're driven. It's pure, fabulous warrior energy, and this is a year that these are the years that the good juices are really drawn on. these kapha juices are really drawn on, because there's this particularly strong dominant force of creative energy in the body. And we can look at that in terms of hormonal processes as, lots of sex hormones, if you will. And so this changes again at about age 50. And then it becomes a vata dominant phase of life. So what occurs in the vata dominant phase of life is it's like moving into autumn. It's like moving from summer into autumn. And I use that analogy of the season of autumn or fall in North America, fall, because it's dry, there's lots of movement, and we can see it and relate to it in leaves. And this starts to occur in one's body. But so there's a natural degeneration and aging dominance that becomes more prevalent. And so how we live is to adapt to support that. And how we experience that is fundamentally linked to how we live during the Pitta years, during the years where we have this abundance of drive and motivation and incredible capacity to bulldoze and barge through barriers and say, no, that says no, I'm not accepting no, I'm going to forge forward anyway, and really burn the candle at both ends and do, rest very little, accomplish lots and lots and lots. So it's really about always a starting point, understanding that we are governed by these principles, and we do have our seasons. And no matter what season we're in, understand it and recognize it for what it is, because it doesn't mean you can't create, accomplish, manifest, do lots and lots and lots, but also know that it is finite. It actually is finite. The self is not finite, it's infinite, but this physical body is. And the good juices that it's composed of, they actually are. It's like, oops, sorry. Yeah. and so when we cross over into the next season, we'll go into deficit if we don't have enough capacity, reserves, to be able to negotiate it with vitality, with wellness, and the aging process, of course, can really accelerate. So, absolutely. Yeah.
So what about like the modern world today? Do you think the modern world today is creating people to age faster?
Yeah, for sure. I do. 80% of people on the planet are hot. There's, it's the planet is heating up, the world is heating up, and it's dry. So there's hot, dry conditions occurring inwardly in so many people. And if that's what's presenting, it's about how to thrive within that, how to be well within that. And so there's things that we can do in order to support ourselves in how we live. And just the way that we live in the modern world, the pace of it, the technology, the immediacy and instancy, the constancy, the number of impressions that are constantly coming in, the lack of rest, deep rest, because even when we think we might be resting, we may be resting in a room to go to sleep at night that's got, for example, street, light from street lamps coming in, or there could be Wi-Fi on, maybe not in our own homes, but if people live in an urban environment, it's just pumping in from all around. Telephones are not switched to flight mode. It's just endless, right? It goes on and on and on. We think we're too busy to prepare meals with fresh food, so we eat out. We want to eat well, so we spend so much effort researching and going out to which joint to eat well from. Right. Instead of getting in the kitchen, preparing the food that's come out of our own garden. So these are just a tiny example of some of the things that we're faced with in modern living, and it can all pull us away from the nature of who we are. So do we even know? Have we even considered that we're hot and dry, for example, or what's going on internally? And so there are many things that we can do to support ourselves in that. And an example would be, if you how do you know if you're hot? Well, if your head constantly feels full, like it's going to explode or implode. If your hands and feet constantly feel really cold, especially in the height of the warm season, then it could be that you've got a dodgy thermostat. It could be that the heat's not distributing properly, which doesn't mean you're cold. It could mean that you're really hot. And or it could be that you have itchy skin or skin conditions or gut complaints or inflammation in the body. Or for women with menstrual cycle, it could be that there's lots of bloating, dysmenorrhea, menorrhagia, all sorts of problems with the menstrual cycle and reproductive health. It could be general crankiness and irritability. It goes on, but these things are classic examples of, there may be a bit of heat. If joints are getting a bit sore, if the body's aging prematurely and there's lots of, if the skin is constantly dry, if eyes are dry and irritated, if there's problem with teeth, with nails, with hair and bones and muscles, if there's a problem with prolapse, digestively, if digestion is low, then look at the simple ways that you can support it. And it may be, for example, eat cooked foods. Start with digestion and eat more cooked foods. So, stews, soups, slow, one-pot meals. My tongue's getting twisted. Raw food takes tremendous, it's very nutrient dense, but it takes tremendous capacity to convert it into a life-giving substance that nourishes you. So support your gut and eat accordingly. If the heat's there, then avoid sour foods, because it's going to create more heat. Got it. And if there's sourness, it dilates the blood vessels. It impacts how you assimilate food. So you can be eating the best food in the world and still feeling tired and fatigued because simply the assimilation capacity is not running optimally. So my advice to that would be avoid sour foods, which, don't have sauerkraut and kombucha, for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between. Kombucha is not designed to drink like water. And avoid lots of tomato and yogurt, fermented foods, pickles and vinegars, citrus fruits. There are many, many things that you can be doing to support this. Take it easy with pungent spices. Have plenty of ghee, or if vegan, plenty of coconut oil, and have a teaspoon of ghee in hot water or coconut oil in hot water and sip on it to begin the day. These are just, some of the fundamental but really, really potent home remedies and ways that you can support yourself in modern life.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Very, very applicable things that people can start taking on right now. So I know another thing you talk about in your work is legacy. What does legacy mean to you?
So if you take life from the very first in-breath, from the very first intake, then, where our inner world meets the outer world, then we can view it in terms of 7 living processes right through and until our final breath. But the final process, the final phase of life is one of regeneration, or reproduction. And it's really where legacy comes into play, because it's that phase where we're sowing our gifts as seeds for those to come. So legacy is very important to me, and I always encourage people to be contemplating this now, because it's like, what gifts am I, one, bringing to the table? What am I contributing to the table? What am I bringing to the harvest of life? And what do I wish to plant for those to come? For my great, great, great grandchildren's great, great, great grandchildren.
Beautiful.
And so it's, we're talking, it may be something physical, but it's really get into it, explore it in a real qualitative manner.
I love it. Thank you. That's beautiful. So I want to make sure that you have a chance to talk about a free gift you have. There's a button below this video, everyone, that leads over to a free gift. Can you share about that?
Yes, yeah, for sure. So for everybody who's listening in and watching, I'd like to give to you 40 days of tips, tools, and inspirations, Ayurvedically, essentially. And it's really about why 40 days of tips and tools. Well, because that's a great day to become established in something. So with this, it's each day you receive it may be a home remedy or a tip as to how to work with your nature and support your healthy aging, support your radiant vitality, along with beautiful inspirations to reflect upon, and over that number of days, so that it really becomes a pattern. So that it cultivates a particular pattern and rhythm that you're then able to drop in and recognize in yourself what it is you can be doing to support your wellness as you journey on this awesome gig of living.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. And everyone, again, that button is right below, so you can just click on it and get started on those 40 days and really, ingraining those patterns into your life. Are there any last insights? Anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up?
Yeah. So there's two things that immediately are coming to mind. And one is, take care of what lays within you. Take care of that which cannot be seen, because that's the one that will lead ultimately to the visible. And two ways that I would really encourage people to do that, and here you go, happy 40th. Thank you. For anybody from age 40 beyond, it's really fantastic to take castor oil, a teaspoon of castor oil before bed, because it slows down, it takes care of vata, and so it slows down the aging. Essentially, it retards premature aging and degeneration of tissue. And the other is, of course, to just really cultivate a daily inner contemplation practice. If you don't already have one, I really do recommend, a daily meditation practice, because in this contemporary world that we live in, more than at any time, whether it's 20 minutes a day, it's your time where you check in and it's like, how are you going? And everything else can just fall away, and you are so worth it. So give yourself that gift of just dropping in, being with your breath, and even ask the question, how are you, my friend? And then listen.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love that. That's good. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you for, orchestrating and offering all that you do, Andy. It's a beautiful gift to the world, it's needed. And yeah,
Awesome.
I'm so grateful for you doing what
Well,
you do.
right back at you. And everyone watching or listening right now, we are grateful for
Yeah.
you. And thank you for showing up for yourself
Yeah.
and being here with us on this healthy aging journey. And we'll see you again real soon. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.